Right. Good morning, everyone. Under the social media techniques, I think we talked about the content. We also talked about analytics and a few other things regarding the social media. Today, I thought we will have a discussion about another very important aspect of social media. One is legal, and the other one is ethical. So both are equally important when it comes to understanding social media. Now, in this unit, we are looking at two separate things, as I was saying earlier, right? So we are on one side, we are looking at what is social media and how the social media is working. On the other side, we are looking at how software engineering can use social media, either to use it as an authentication system or to use it to inquire information from the social media, or to use that within another programming system. So those are the two different things we are looking at here. So in any case, legal and ethical things are extremely important under this. Why is that? Because we need to make sure we are not doing anything illegal. So we need to know what is legal, what is illegal. Now, if you do something illegal, you will get into legal problems. Ethical, well, that's more on the moral values. Are we doing it right? Is it the right thing to do? Things like that. So you might not get into any legal issues, but then you are doing something not correct. Yeah, morally correct. So let's see what these things are and how that will be governing what we do on social media. In fact, this is coming under the environment. We call it environment of electronic commerce and social mediums. So couple of things are there also now. Social media also involves most of the time commerce, isn't it? If you look at Facebook, there is something called marketplace where you can sell and buy things. And also if you look at, let's say, Instagram, so there are again people making sales. So of course, Google, there are things where commerce is concerned and involved. So here we are talking actually three things: legal, ethical, and also taxes. Now, taxes for us may not be a big deal, or maybe we don't care for the tax, but that's one of the main income for the government. So when the people in the country are doing trading, government would like to have a piece of the action. So that's called tax. So they will tax the person who's selling. Sometimes they also tax the person who's buying. So either way, depending on the product, amounts and things like that. So let's see how these things work together. Okay. So legal, ethical, and tax issues. What are some of the issues or other problems we may be facing? We'll be looking at legal environment. We also try to understand, since we are talking legalities, what is the role of intellectual property protection, right? What is IP protection? How does it work on the internet? And then what are these other bad things happening online? Crime, terrorism, warfare, stuff like that. And then we look at the morally right thing to do and wrong thing to do, ethical issues. And the last one will be taxation, because taxation is also important if we are looking at social medium as a marketing tool or to sell things online and whatnot. Actually, more than us, like I said, the government is interested in the taxation. So let's start with the understanding of intellectual property. Now, what is IP or intellectual property mean? This is about something that you created, right? It's either created by one individual person or multiple people or a company. So you come up with something new, something that is not created before. And For that, you can get a license. It's called the IP license. Actually, the reason is this. Now, this is the very good introduction or rather explanation from the US Patent Act, right? Section 101. So it says, whoever invents or discovers any new and useful process, machine, manufacturer, or composition of matter, or any new and useful improvement there. So what does it mean? You come up with something new, like a process, how to do something, a machine, a manufacturing system, or composition of matter, or anything, any improvement, that is invention and innovation. Invention is something that you are creating where it was never before, it was there. It was never there before. Innovation is you are taking something already existing and then improve it. That is innovation. Yeah. So it says may obtain a patent, therefore subject to the conditions and requirements of this title. So you may have seen in some places as a patent pending or copyrighted, patent owner, words like that. Now, how does it work and how long our patent lasts? Now, patent means you have a license for that idea, okay, or the product rather, or the process, or the composition of matter, whatever. Now, in the US, they grant the owner a 20-year exclusive monopoly on the ideas behind an invention. So in US, when you have an IP license, you can make money for 20 years. Then what happens after the 20 years? Well, unless you update your IP, it becomes public domain. That means you are not the protector of the IP. It becomes public, right? If you look at published books, they said after 50 years, the books become public domain. So they're giving 50 years for the author to enjoy the money, right? The profits coming that way. And then after 50 years, probably he's dead. Others have made enough money. So it can become public domain. So when it comes to intellectual property, there are a few keywords we need to understand. So let's see what they mean. Number one is copyright. What does that mean? Copyright means it's not publicly copyable by other people. So it protects original work of authorship, such as article, book, software code, music, and videos. Okay, software code, which is interesting to us, is also can be copyrighted. But we do have a little problem there. When it comes to software, we are solving a problem with our software programming language. But the same problem can be solved by multiple different language types or different algorithms and different ways. So although you can get a patent for software code, that might not last long, right? That might not be able to challenge. That is copyright. Number two, trademark. What does that mean? Protects brand names, logos, slogans, and other identifiers that distinguish your product or service. So trademark is for visual things. It can be a name, it can be a logo, it can be a slogan, anything for that matter. Third one is called patent. What does that mean? It protects inventions and certain processes or methods. So if you have an invention, then you can get a patent for that. Last one is trade secret. What does that mean? Protects confidential business information such as formulas, practices, and designs. Like say, for example, the recipe for Coca-Cola drink is supposedly a trade secret. Although many people have reverse engineered it, but they still say it's a trade secret, right? So likewise. And how do I register my intellectual property? How do I, get a license to my new thing? Well, there are different ways of doing it. One is copywriting the material, right? So in order to do that, you need to register your work with a or authorized or appropriate copyright office. For example, if I write a book, if I am to get the copyright of that book, I need to register my book in the Sri Lankan library system. Right? So there is a library department or libraries and archives in Sri Lanka. You need to go there and publish your book. As in, you need to tell them, look, I am going to publish this book. So they will give you something called the ISBN number, and you will be the author and you have full right for that book. Right? Number two, trademarks. Now you may have seen this TM, right? Or R. Yeah. So TM is for unregistered trademarks. That means you are basically getting that for a logo or a name or something like that. But if you put a TM, that means trademark, but still not registered yet with the, like in our case, the office is at Maradana at a building called Samagam Medura. When you go there, you can get trademarks, you can get copyright information, you can get patents, all that you can get from there. So if you have a logo and it is still not registered, you can't put R there because R is for registered trademarks. So you can put TM there until you get your license, you can have TM. And then patents, they are not patients, patents, right? Patents, patent, and then they'll give you the documentation to file for a patent. Patents, called NDA, undisclosure agreement. So when you are meeting a competitor or someone who's doing something similar, they will say, okay, can you please sign our NDA? So you should be able to sign that after reading, of course. What it means, you need to read and understand. Then comes the digital protection strategies. Now, how are we going to, now earlier you saw intellectual property registration. So we register and we get a special license for our product. But then how do you actually protect these things? So one is called digital watermarking. So this is not the normal watermarking, digital watermarking, meaning um, the software or whatever for that matter will have an encrypted number. That's it. Nobody can read that. Now to read it, you need to come back to your other application and then you need to type the let's say the passcode or something like that, yeah, to get it. Sometimes watermarking mean putting up a semi-transparent picture of your name or a company name or something on the document itself, on the slide itself, right? Then we come to digital marketing rights management or DRM. This is where um, many different things can come into play because when they started, they applied this to the DVDs and they said DVDs are regional locked. So you can't buy a CD from Sri Lanka, go to America and play there. It won't work. Yeah. And to manage that, they introduced DRM, Digital Rights Management. So of course, they are all coming or rather getting feed by various parties so that they can, at the end of the day, give a better support for everyone in the country. And then we have encryption. So encryption is about you doubling up the whatever that you want to protect, whether it is a picture or text or whatever on one side, and then on the other side you have to decrypt it. So they should have your password at the other side as well. And then we have another very important access control. So if you can stop people from coming to a certain place, then you have achieved it, right? How do you do that? So do you have a poster? Do you email them? Do you find out and email them? Things like that. So, registering your intellectual property, we were talking about that. We spoke about the copyright, trademarks, and also patents. You get them from a certain office. Generally, office belongs to a government. And then the last one, there is no office for trade secrets as such. Now, generally, it's an agreement between two parties, either with the individual and another individual, or an individual with a company, or a company and a company, right? So it's just a straightforward agreement to say that we will not disclose any of the things that we're discussing to outsiders. So, and these are very straightforward. So these are the usual way of protecting the knowledge or invention or innovation. Then that's the sort of the getting the legal side. But then how do you actually do some of the protection to your digital content? One very famous thing is called watermarking. So watermarking is about having a semi-transparent content, or actually semi-transparent, maybe a message or something to the content. Now, this is very famous for images, videos, documents, and stuff like that. So people can't reuse it on other mediums. Let's say, for example, you have a watermark on a picture. So you might have your signature there, right? So others cannot use that picture on their other work. Then we have another very famous one called the DRM, Digital Rights Management System. So in the early 90s, when the internet was launched, when people started freely copying music, more than the videos music, the industry association came up with this DRM system mechanism where they were embedding a certain digital technology. Actually, they started off with DVDs so that you cannot copy DVDs. So you can't buy cheap DVD from one country and take it to another country and play. Encryption is also a very common one. Like, say, for example, you can encrypt a picture or you can encrypt a website. Now, we are using encryption very regularly with the website between the server and the browser, the client. And then, of course, access control. So you can even have a password protected information, like say a file can be password protected. Or if it is a website or something, you might ask for an authentication, username, password to access it. Or even for a document, a PDF or a doc, you can have certain access controls to protect confidential information. Right, now then comes the legal measures and enforcement. So how do you bring in the legal system to protect yourself? Number one is to have a terms and service document, right? Now there we will be very clearly stating the ownership of the intellectual property. Plus, we also tell them how they can use it. So it's called the permission. Now, this is very common if you see in mobile application when you're installing for the first time. They will ask you for permission, isn't it? They say, okay, this application will share your contact details, or this application will do this or that. Now, this also happens when you use online authentication. Say, for example, you have an application and then you are using Facebook as an authentication mechanism. So it will come up with a pop-up and say, look, by using this, you are giving your friends information, your information, and things like that. So as a user, we need to make sure you read the terms and conditions, but at the same time for the company, you need to make sure you have a terms and service, right? Terms and conditions. So that way, both parties are protected. And then cease and desist letters. Now, what does that mean? Now, say, for example, I have a nice picture and somebody else is using my picture for their work, let's say their website background or whatever. I can send them a letter demanding either to take it down, remove it, or pay me a royalty piece, right? It's up to us to charge whatever we want. That is called cease or desist letters. Now, the process of taking legal action is known as litigation. Litigation is about taking legal action against repeat infringers or those causing significant damage to your business. And then enforcement, there can be online enforcement also, right? Say if it is like especially e-commerce or something where there's some transaction going on, there can be certain restrictions on using the credit card. Now, for example, as per the law, the companies cannot share credit card information. So what we should do is forward the request to a bank and get it done there. But there may be instances where you may want to store the credit card information. In that case, you need to have a proper terms and condition and then do that thing. And then comes monitoring and detection. So how do you monitor that legal things are there, illegal things are not tried? So the best thing is to do regular searches, right? This is done automatically in places like YouTube, for example. Now to YouTube, let's say you use somebody else's music and somebody else's video and you make your own thing and then you upload. YouTube is very smart to detect the things that are not belongs to you. And then it will also inform the original author. Say you use somebody as a song, YouTube will inform them saying, hey, your song is used here. So then the original author can say, okay, I want this much money, or please take it out, take it off, right? Otherwise, if it is no big deal, YouTube will continue to show you this message saying this content is copyrighted, right? So that's using regular searches. And then automated tools is like what we just discussed with YouTube. So it can detect and report IP infringement happening on that. And then again, an example alert from YouTube. You can see alerts coming from YouTube itself saying, look, there is a copyright infringement. So then in YouTube's case, they will also tell us what is wrong and then what we should do. Should we take it out or should we just leave it there? And there are also other areas like licensing and partnership. So, this is about not going after the illegal matters. So you can give a license for anyone who's interested to use it. Like say, for example, music and songs. Whenever a radio channel is playing a music or a song belongs to a certain party, they must pay back them. They need to pay them a certain amount of money. So for example, if it is like Apple Music or Spotify, every time they play a song for you, they have to pay a certain amount to the original author of the song. They get that money from the subscription that we are paying them. Okay. The next is partnership. So licensing agreement is one way and the other one is partnership. So if the content is regularly used, maybe you can have a partnership. For example, if you look at some software where they have free music available for you to use, especially for video editing and things like that. And also some video clips as well. So it's a partnership between the creator of those content and the software developer. So we as consumers, we don't need to worry about that. And then employee and contractor agreement. What does that mean? Now, when someone joins an organization where there is already some intellectual property happening, registered, you need to you need to have an agreement with the organization. So one day you can't go out of the organization and claim the intellectual property. Generally speaking, when you invent something while working in a company, the IP right goes to the company. Because they can say, well, we employed this person, so whatever he does belongs to us. So be very careful again there. And then comes the education awareness. Now, many people don't know the seriousness of intellectual property and legal matters around the ideas and stuff like that. So we need to teach people about the importance of this in the organization and the students and all that. And you can't do anything alone without the government support. So we work with the government to create policy developments and policy documents and training of people and all that stuff. So there are, of course, different places where they do this. There is Samagam Medro, then there is ICT agency doing some of this. So there are many institutions doing just this. Now, while we are busy doing everything in Sri Lanka, there is also a massive global, changes going on. Now, for example, you might have an idea in Sri Lanka. What if someone uses in, let's say, America? Have they broken the, let's say, is it an infringement or not, right? So we got to be very careful again there, right? Because international, luckily, there is an institution called World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO. Now, many countries have signed up with WIPO. It's called the WIPO Treaty. So if your country is part of the WIPO Treaty, you are automatically protected within all the other countries of the treaty, right? Say, America and Sri Lanka, we are both signed up. So if I have a protection from, say, intellectual property protection, I can use the same thing. I can claim it in US also, which is very important.